And I believe next speaker is Deeksha Sharma, postdoctoral fellow, human development, Cornell University. Introduce you to the audience, and then please start your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll give a brief note where I work and how I work. So I am Deeksha Sharma, and I'm a postdoc at Cornell University. My work is around human intelligence, and specifically to emotional intelligence, adaptive intelligence, and cultural intelligence. And I've been working around mental well-being. That is the crux of all the intelligences and how should we develop as a human society. And my work is just not psychological, clinical. It's more of the managerial side, organizational behavior. So it has a lot many branches, which is galvanizing into one. And that's the interesting and the challenging part of what and where I work. So so thank you so much for bringing me on the panel. And the discussion is about the positive organizations. So first we need to understand what exactly are the positive organizations, because we always tend to understand positive organizations on the basis of the positive and the productive events which happens at the organizations, but that is not limited to only this. It has more you can say the range towards understanding, acknowledging, and channelizing and challenging the negative narratives which exist and coexist with these positive events. Now, what are those narratives? I'm going to discussing those in here. And specifically, when you talk about organizations, we are talking about people. And when we are talking about people, it's more about emotions. And I'm a big advocate of mental well-being and emotional intelligence, where I have curated many workshops and many training models at a number of corporate institutes, and also at Cornell University. And if I try to imbibe these two with the digital age, which we are talking about in this particular session, I find that this is the historic moment where we see a cohesive transformation of this digital age from just being a necessity, which is, yeah, it is important for us to have in our work-day culture, to be the utmost focused need. So I'm going to talk about the whole session in these three parts, which will be pre-COVID, the mid-COVID, and how the post-COVID would be. So if I talk about the pre-COVID and the kind of analysis we have been doing as researchers, and the kind of organizational practices we have seen and we have been practicing in different organizations, they were challenging. There were certain limitations, but then they were still okay to be handled, and if you compare to what is happening right now. So let me talk about the pre-sessions, like the pre-COVID session. Now, at that time, I was working on emotional intelligence, adaptive intelligence, cultural intelligence for the demographics like sex, gender, age, ethnicity, culture, and as well as its geographical locations. And all of these matters when we are talking about different aspects of human behavior. I'll take one example here, which actually was part of my study in 2016 and 17, where we were conducting a survey in Dubai, in the United States, and in India. And we found that when we did some self-report analysis between the male and female employees, we were asking them a question that, are you comfortable working with the opposite gender? Now, I know the difference between gender and the sex, but I'm going to use gender as the demographic here. So they said yes, because I don't know whether they were scared that we are part of the HR group or what, but they said that yes, we are comfortable working with the opposite gender. But when they were put in a quasi-experiment, the same sample size, the results were topsy-turvy, especially in the UAE and Dubai area. And we found that the opposite gender had some kind of inhibitions in the working scale environment. But that wasn't the case with the sample in India and United States. And the fascinating part was that even the expats in Dubai had the similar behavior of feeling some kind of inhibitions while working with the opposite gender. Now, why was that? So we can say that subconsciously, when they're working the past 5 to 8 years, they develop those cultural barriers which were not part of their native land. But when they are there in the different era, they start subconsciously becoming part of that. So this was one of the very interesting study which we found that the difference between the self-reportings and these quasi experiments which we were trying to find the difference in the organizational behavior, in the human behavior in their workspace area. Not only that, in 2019, I did a training model at Cornell Corporate Extension, which is one of the corporate houses at Cornell, which has employees who work in like normal lifestyle from 9 to 5 jobs. And it was easy to exhibit a training model where we had intervention of communication, that how communication can help increasing the locus of control for your emotional intelligence from one timeline to the other timeline. But if we see, we cannot implement similar kind of training models in the present scenario. So I also designed one of the Google training workshop for Google employees at New York, but we were not able to implement it in March 2020 because number of innovations were coming on that the whole setup have changed. We cannot have this kind of training model, even if the indicators are same. And I have to redesign the model again. So talking about the pre-COVID scenario, talking about the research, talking about the analysis, and talking about the organizational behavior, it was way different than what we are experiencing at this point of time. Not only that, but I was able to work on certain parameters like reaction time. Now, what are these like, which are actually the direct indicators of handling the self-efficacy of an employee? And we found that, interestingly, that it was the reaction time for processing the negative emotions was way higher than the doing for the positive emotions. And we could see the connect that how can we implement this in the communications and negotiation factors at an organizational setup, that how these narratives which are negative can be included and have to be included in any kind of communication which is happening in the organizational culture. But other than that, also self-efficacy was impacted by emotional intelligence and these reaction time indicators. And this way, we were able to create models. As being the behavioral scientist, we were able to do that. Now let's talk about the mid-COVID crisis. This was pre-COVID. Mid-COVID is entirely a different setup for researchers, for us, and even to conduct a study, even to have these training models, even to work with different organizations, we have different challenges and different limitations. And specifically talking about this digital age, this is the time where we have seen the transformation from this digital age, screen time, for being just a necessity to being the utmost focused need. Like without this, the white collars, they cannot work. We need it. And interestingly, there has been an increase in the people taking higher internet plans because they want the internet to work like anything. So for just like you can say the food, water, and shelter, internet is another need of an hour because that's the way they can have the money through their jobs. So yes, it has become important, but it has other side to it. Like I'll take some examples here, like something like Zoom fatigue. So that is very much known in the United States. Like you're always on Zoom, you're always on screen, and that's taking a lot of toll. And it's so sarcastic that you're at your home and you're still tired, and that makes and that has another psychological and clinical aspect related to it, which is called as the spatial cognitive processing, where your brain catches the memory indicators with emotions and the spatial like XYZ, the coordinates, and then it stores the memory. Now, when you are at one place and which is your home, where you eat, where you sleep, where you watch, where you do Netflix, where you work, so everything is so mixed up, so the memory and the brain starts working slowly. And that's the thing which I'm talking about, the spatial cognitive processing, which slows down. And that is the reason people are asking to go for more physical activities, go out, do some exercises, eat right. And this has a backward linkage to how your cognition work while you're at a place. You feel fine, you feel really good at home, but that's not the thing. Somewhere something is actually degrading, and this is what it is all about. So the work-life balance is becoming difficult when you're at home. Like as Aya said, and I actually agree with her about the gender inequality of taking care of the work. Now at home, it is becoming more difficult for women because she has to take care of chores, and then she has to make sure the dishes are done, the food is done, and then she has to sit and work just like her partner. But then even the partners are working well, but then still the pressure and the anxiety on women is higher even at home. And the concept of sabbatical has gone away, and people have been asking in different organizations where I have been a part of their discussion that whether we should make sure that sabbatical is still a kind of a privilege given to the employees because they're working from home. So lot many things are changing at organization for their policies, regarding to the HR policies, specifically regarding to the kind of leaves they're going to get and the kind of sabbaticals they're going to get. And these are very tough times. We are taking it slow, but then if you see gradually how we have changed our lifestyle, our working style, and our personal life, or our family life as well. If you have children, then that's another scenario, because it's from work from home, then you have to homeschool your children, then you have to make sure they're working well, you have to make sure everything is fine, and then you're sitting for your work. So it's not easy psychologically. And I should say the technical aspect has helped us to stay in touch, to make sure that organizations are working well, but still that has another toll on organizations and as well as on the employees as well. Talking about the Maslow theory, we have one layer just built above the basic necessities, which is the security. And I think that has been crunched like anything in this particular era of COVID, where the security of job, security of being healthy, security of being psychologically well is totally intimidated. And this is the time actually. As being an advocate to mental health, that's what my work has been. I would like to introduce a fun fact to this talk, which is about something called the vagus nerves, which are one of the most complex and the longest nerve in our human body, which connects your brain to your heart, to your gut system, which is your digestive system, and which connects to your whole immune system. So if you're feeling anxious, it will be directly connected to your immune system, and your immune system will degrade a little bit. So it has a negative feedback to it. And that is a reason in this digital era, how difficult it has become as humans to work. So even more and more apps we have, more and more difficult it is becoming for us to handle those and manage those apps. So yeah, and we have more apps to manage those apps. So that is one sarcastic thing which is happening around, and we have to see along the lines. Talking specifically about the organizations, because I work on Zoom more. So if I talk about Zoom, so if we are handling about 50 to 100 team members, and having a meeting around, it's very difficult to have that connection and sense of belonging. So we have these breakout rooms where we have people from 10 to 2 people in one group, and they can do some contribution to a particular session, and they can come back to the moderator. That's the way we are trying to have more connections within the larger group. And the food has always been one of the intriguing and the inspiring part for making sure that audience are intrigued and are staying put in these sessions. But that's not feasible at this moment. So what we are trying to do is that we're going for Amazon gift, and we send them beforehand, and they can get the food they like. They sit with us in a semi-casual way. We eat together. We discuss things on the Zoom. So it's not that great, but still we are trying to make it more humanistic as possible. Now, not only that, but there are certain aspects which have not yet been taken into acknowledgement. Like one of the cases which is a problem with these kind of online strategies or online meetings is the delaying processes. For example, if there is a colleague who wants to take some guidance on some particular aspect. So earlier it was like you will go from workstation 1 to workstation 2, get the idea, direct contact, and you go back to your seat and you work. But now you have to call a person, or you have to do a Slack, or you have to do some Zoom invitations, and that process takes time. So even for a single query, it takes a longer run. So the delay is about 5 to 6 hours. So on an average, this is the study which has been conducted, which shows about a delay of 5 to 6 hours per day, and that is counted and costed on organization and as well as on employees because they have to complete the work on time. Not only that, but if you talk about new employees, like I am in contact with many new students who have just entered the market from IITs and Cornell in the United States as well. The problem which comes in is the sense of belonging. Earlier, we used to have these ice-breaking ceremonies and there's just orientation programs where you can meet people, you can talk to seniors, and from seniors to, I mean, you can talk to any level, and then you can get a sense of belonging, that motivation that we can do things. But that's not the case now. And I mean, this is one of the challenges which most of the organizations are facing. They're trying to have many activities to make sure that there are connections, but yes, this is a big problem. Other than that, the HR which are facing the problems in this digital age is the exit interviews. So definitely there is a plunge, like in the jobs. There are a lot of job droppings happening, but then there are people who are switching jobs a lot. This is the right time to do it. Like if you are talented enough, you can do it. This is the right time, and that's why the HR have a problem when they are doing these exit interviews with these talented employees. It's very difficult for them to retain these employees because earlier, there was a sense of connect when you're sitting with them and you can talk for like an hour or so, and you can talk and convince them out to stay in their organizations. But now that's not the situation. Things are different now. So there are many issues which are connected to this, and there are positives and negatives, and then these negative narratives have to be seen with time. Now, if I talk about the post-COVID, well, if you're very lucky, we're going to get out of it and we're going to be in the post-COVID scenario. And if we are there, so specifically talking about these organizations, how they're going to work. So work from home is a new home, but there are many organizations which want these work from home to continue forever. They want to make it permanent, and there are some which want to go for an indefinite period of time, and some of the organizations want to have their office physical facilities to come back into power. Now, if I talk about FANG, like one of the organizations like Amazon, they have a beautiful headquarters at Seattle, and that's amazing. And the same is with in San Francisco, where we can see the Google, and then you can see Apple. What was the reason for them to build so beautiful architectures? Was to make sure that the employees aren't feeling at home, they aren't feeling at being at office. They feel they're somewhere in heaven and they're working really great. And that was the reason they invested so much. But the same organizations are ready to stay in and put in the fact that, okay, let's have this work from home as a permanent option, even if they haven't so much investment in their physical assets. Now, having said that, the reason is because in the continuation, in the longer run, there would be certain cost cuttings, and they can hire people from different places all around the world without taking care of the visas or without taking care of their travels. And that in longer run can help the organizations. But yet the other part, the human connections, the sense of belonging, the sense of motivation, which comes in when you talk to somebody, when you're physically present there, is almost different. Like, as I can see, it can happen with the same for us, like as a panel, if we were there sitting on a panel and talking to the audience, the connect between the audience and the panel and between the panelists would have been on a different level what we have right now. So these are the if and buts. So we can say it's a boon in the curse or curse in the boon. We have to find out the solution in the coming times. But yes, there are certain negative narratives of these positive organizations, and we have to cater to them step by step. And that's what we are trying to do as researchers, as HRs of different organizations. And I hope, that's my hope, that we are able to make sure that the psychology of the organization is healthy and wealthy in the coming future. So that's it from me. Thank you.